Good evening, Vine family. Welcome to our Wednesday night live stream. We're happy that you can join us online tonight. It is a live stream, so if you got questions, just write them into the comments, and I'll get those in the computer, and we can talk about them as we go. Let's jump in with a couple of announcements. Number one, want to let you know we got a ladies event coming up. That's on March 27th. Mark your calendars. Ladies, only requirement for that event is that you have to be a lady. So come to that. Also want to let you know that next Wednesday we have a special gathering. The entire church is welcome, whether you are a guest, a visitor, just want to know what's going on with the future of the church, or if you are a member. We invite you out on Wednesday night. We're going to gather at 6 o'clock. We're going to have dinner here together, and then we're going to have a discussion and kind of some question and answer about what the future holds for the church, what's going to go on in the future of the church. And so we want you to come out for that. It's going to be a good gathering. Want to let you know that it is not the easiest thing to get here sometimes on a Wednesday night, so come prepare accordingly, all right? We're in a series talking through the issue of wisdom, and we've partnered that series with the things that we're doing on Sunday morning and Wednesday night. We're going through Proverbs chapter 22 through 24, where the writer of Proverbs collects 30 wise sayings. We're on number 17 tonight. I've told you that there is a wisdom shortage in our world, and to prove it to you, I've told you I'd give you a little video each week from the internet. Check it out.
ايش فول بومبا شو فول بومبا اي واحده تبلش فول بومبا بامبا يلا اسمع تعرف تبغى تعمل فرق اضرب في شكل مش حاطط خبزيه انا ما صدقني ما تطلع بس فيها مش تعرف تنيك فيها ولا عندي هاي شو اسمه تعال صدق تعملها في الشفره ما انت كنت تعملها زمان والله وين الوجع بعرف بتطلع مخالف في ايدك لسه حد ما بتطلع مخالف في ايدك قلت لي بس من برا شو بنفس تاني
I just love all his friends laughing in the background the whole time. I'm sure that he was cursing in some foreign language, but it doesn't count because you didn't understand it. So here we go. Why say number 17? Check it out. Listen to your father who gave you life, and do not despise your mother when she is old. Buy the truth and do not sell it. Wisdom, instruction, and insight as well. The father of a righteous child has great joy. A man whose father is wise, has a wise son, rejoices in him. May your father and mother rejoice. May she who gave you birth be joyful. Let's focus on, next slide, check it out, this little phrase here, buy the truth and do not sell it. Let me show you that in a couple different translations. Buy the truth and do not sell it. I'm reading from the NIV tonight. These are the same verses, just different translation. Learn the truth and never reject it. Get the truth and never sell it. And invest in the truth. All of these are just different ways of saying the same exact thing, except for the fact that truth is a tough thing to put your finger on these days. We live in a world where truth is hard to identify. We live in a world that drifts towards conspiracy theories and conjecture, and it is difficult to find the truth. The truth, I would argue, is under attack in our world. And so check this out. Nowadays, it used to be that there was a general consensus that truth existed transcendently, not just an opinion, not just an idea, but a transcendent level of truth, meaning outside of yourself, something bigger and grander than you was the one or the thing that was determining what was and wasn't true, something beyond just your opinion, just your subjective understanding, just your viewpoint. But today, we live in a world where truth is just some wishy-washy, like subjective opinion idea. Check this out, 75th Annual Golden Globes Award, a Lifetime Achievement Award that was given to Oprah Winfrey, and she said this: "Speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have." Literally the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I mean, speaking your truth, what's your truth? Like, it presents the idea that your truth could be different than my truth, but is there anything that's just true? Like, not your opinion, not just what you think. God bless you. I know your mama cares, but the rest of us don't. What is there any concrete thing that is true? Because this statement, along with a variety of others, seem to counteract or stand in objection to this concept. Live your truth. What does that mean? Live your truth. Like, is there something true that you're living that somebody else, it would be untrue? Or how about this? Find your truth and follow your path. Or how about this? Stand in your truth. Or how about this, Mr. Robbins? Greatness is hearing your truth and speaking it, no matter how your voice shakes. What are these people talking about? Your truth is your future. This is our current world that we live in. Truth is an idea that's malleable, that just is your perspective on the world, whether or not it's reality, whether or not it's true. Yikes. Or how about this last one? If you're not living your truth, you're living a lie. Don't even know what any of that means. Honestly, when you really think about it, it makes literally no sense. Let me give you a professor I like from Palm Beach Atlantic University. He's written a book on this, the concept of your truth. Let me give you a little speech I heard him give. Check this out.
Is there such a thing as truth? Or is everything, including truth, a statement of personal opinion or preference? In other words, is truth relative? For our purposes here, let's put aside the science angle. Yes, you can sit on a couch and not appear to be moving, but since the Earth at the equator is rotating at 1,100 miles per hour, you are, from that perspective, moving, and very fast. I'm not talking about that kind of relative. Let's confine ourselves to the more everyday questions of truth, like, does it exist? Once the answer to this question was obvious, usually confined to late-night discussions in college dorm rooms, but no longer. Truth is going through a tough time. A white woman feels black and represents herself to be so. She rises in the leadership ranks of the NAACP until her fiction is exposed. She refuses to go quietly, however. She feels black, and so she is black. A 69-year-old man in the Netherlands petitions the court to legally change his age to 49 because that's how he feels. And of course, seemingly on a daily basis, men and more boys with all the chromosomes and body parts that make them distinctly male declare themselves to be female. And women and more girls likewise declare themselves to be male. They feel they're one sex or the other, therefore they are that sex, and we must accept that regardless of what the truth is. In a viral video, a 5-foot 9-inch American Caucasian male asks students at the University of Washington to acknowledge that he's Chinese or 6'5" or a woman. Some hesitate, but no one will tell him what he's saying is not true, that he's not what he says he is. That would be mean and intolerant. This true for you but not for me relativism is disconcerting because it requires the acceptance of obvious contradictions, denial of reality, and common sense. Rather than adjusting our lives to the truth, The truth has to adjust itself to us. But it's very difficult to live this way, not to mention it being highly impractical. We rely on mind-independent, universal truths in order to think clearly, to navigate life. Otherwise, we quickly get lost. There must be some things that just are, things that are true. This way points north for everybody, no matter what anyone happens to prefer or sincerely believe. So, what is truth? At its root, truth is a match-up with reality. A story, a statement, or belief is only true if it lines up with what's real. It's like a socket wrench fitting perfectly onto a bolt. Reality is the truth maker. Reality makes something true. To say the earth is flat or the moon is made of green cheese is false. Why? Because it doesn't match up with reality. Until quite recently, the purpose of all education in large part was the pursuit of truth. The motto of Harvard University, for example, is veritas, Latin for truth. No more. Anyone who says education should be about the pursuit of truth is immediately shot down with the comeback, whose truth? Increasingly, people speak of my truth or say it's true for me or your reality, as though truth is merely a matter of opinion or perspective. At the 2018 Golden Globe Awards, Oprah Winfrey famously said that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have. Now, you can have your experience or your perspective, but there's no such thing as your truth or my truth. There is only the truth, that which is true for everyone. As Wall Street Journal writer Byron Tao noted, Oprah employed a phrase that I've noticed a lot of other celebrities using these days, your truth instead of the truth. But he added, your truth undermines the idea of shared common facts. And here's another problem with your truth. If your truth is truth, anyone who doesn't hold that truth must be wrong. This sounds a lot like narcissism, and it's intellectual bullying. Believe my truth or else. Not exactly a positive pro-truth message. Yeah, truth is going through a tough time. So let's review. Truth can't be relative. If it is relative, it's not truth. To say there is no truth for all people is to declare a truth for all people. In effect, you're saying it's true that there is no truth. And to declare that both your and my opinions are true, even if they contradict one another, is to speak nonsense. Truth is an opinion or preference. It's not subjective or relative. It is inescapable because reality is inescapable. No amount of double talk will change that, and that's the truth. I'm Paul Copan, author of True for You But Not for Me, for Prager University.
All right, so check out this concept for a moment. When it comes to the issue of truth, truth directly affects how we think of morality. So what is true governs what's right and wrong and what is our morality. Let's take one example tonight and walk slowly through it as we talk about the concept of truth and accepting truth. Take, for example, the contentious issue of abortion. Now, for our discussion tonight, and as we think through this, we're not talking about should it be legal, should it not be legal. All we're saying tonight is it moral? Is there something wrong at the basis of what's going on here? You can align yourself politically however you want. I'll let you decide that. So I just punched that into Google today, like typical arguments for pro-choice, and I came up with Diana Syracuse, who's a grad student at the University of Colorado, and she wrote on the website scholarshippoints.com these 3 arguments for why she is pro-choice. Let's just take a look at them quickly. A woman should have the right to make decisions about her own body. You've probably heard that argument before. A pregnancy is a huge responsibility. No one, not that everyone can or should take it on. And then 3, the adoption and foster care systems are overcrowded and unmanageable. These were 3 arguments for being pro-choice and defending the concept that abortion is a good or a moral good or a societal good. Let's go slow. Look at the first one, just real quick, when we're talking about the concept of truth. A woman should have the right to make decisions about her own body. But the problem here is I know it's challenging, but the problem here is we're not talking about her body. We're talking about a body that's in her body. And that's different. You see, when you have another body in the body, you have to ask the basic question is, does that body, the fetus's body, does that body have rights or value at all? Think about it. I've talked to almost no one who thinks that once the baby is born, once that baby is out of utero, everyone agrees universally that that baby has intrinsic value. Everyone that I know I've ever talked to believes that. So at what point is that value bestowed? Is it at 9 months, 8 months, 7 months, 6 months, 4 months, 2 months? When does that value begin? Even if you were to say, well, I don't think a fetus is a person, a complete whole person yet. Think about that argument in and of itself. Like in our world, we give rights and intrinsic value to things that aren't people all the time. We give rights to animals, to dogs and cats in our society. They aren't people, but they have intrinsic value and rights, and you can be prosecuted if you're to kill them. That's just part of our society. So obviously there's got to be some value and some intrinsic worth at the very core of what's going on in Scripture. Things like this, Genesis chapter 1, God created man in his own image. You have to ask the question, is there some intrinsic truth, some transcendent truth that's bigger than just my opinion on this issue? Number 2, a pregnancy is a huge responsibility, one that not everyone can or should take on. And though that statement in and of itself is true, I think most reasonable people would say, well, that makes sense to me. The idea of leveraging that to defend the point that abortion is a societal good, that creates a problem. Think about it just for the moment. In the Bible, it says this, Exodus chapter 20, verse 13, you shall not murder. This is one of the 10 commandments, like one of the big 10. And we know that this is written not just as some arbitrary law, but that this law describes, it reflects the character of God. The reason we don't murder is because God is life, and to take a life is to separate ourselves from our Creator. That's why we don't murder. That's the whole deal. So to ignore a transcendent truth, to deal with a complicated earthly reality, an inconvenient reality, is insane. Think about it. Not everybody can and is ready to deal with a pregnancy. I love the 2006 documentary by Al Gore on global warming. I love the phrase that he used, an inconvenient truth. Listen to this. Next slide. Look at this. He says this, the title, An Inconvenient Truth, is a way of highlighting the reasons why some people, including the president, don't seem to accept the truth. I love that statement. That's an accurate statement. This is the reason we use this title, Inconvenient Truth, is to point out why it's hard to accept the truth because it would inconvenience us in the now, which is exactly what's being said by someone who is presenting abortion as a public good. Well, it would make people's life tough in the moment. They may not be ready in the moment. It would be hard on the rest of society in the moment. But that doesn't change whether or not it's right or good or true. At the very foundation of what's going on here, we have to ask ourselves a bigger, more pertinent, more inconvenient question. Is it good? Is it right? That comes from truth. But if there is no truth, if it's just your truth and your opinion and my opinion, then yeah, I guess it's just a free-for-all. Life doesn't always have to have intrinsic value. Think about it just for a moment. If there is no absolute truths, if there is no higher standard that governs the concept of truth and reality, then I guess we could get to a place where you would say life doesn't have intrinsic value or is not sacred or is not to be set apart as unique. And I could say it does, and those two things could be equal. And in that scenario, if you're saying, well, life doesn't have any intrinsic value, you're saying that because you're ignoring all the things that come from the created order by which we exist in. Now, if you say, well, there is no God, and there is no truth, and there is no reality to this is all just evolution made up for people to advance as they see fit and create society, then why can't we argue then that you can do whatever you want, kill whoever you want, whenever you want? I mean, there would be nothing holding us back from that. Makes no sense. Check it out. Last but not least, adoption and foster care systems are overcrowded. This is what we typically hear. The truth is that anybody who's been a part of the adoption and foster care system, like my wife and I, know that that statement is completely misleading and false. Yes, adoption and foster care systems are overcrowded, but not for babies. In fact, there are almost no babies in the system right now because the second a baby becomes available in our system, it's immediately adopted. Immediately. There's a line of people waiting to adopt babies in Osceola County. Maybe surprising to you. Listen to what Job says. In his hand is the life of every living thing. So ask yourself this question when you're talking about just this one example. Is there something beyond my opinion that drives what's right and wrong? Is there something beyond just my preference, just how I think it should go, just what my worldview is that should drive right and wrong, good and bad? I would argue that that is truth, that truth should drive those things. And so I would say life has intrinsic value. That is true. And God declares that to be true. He's transcendent and beyond us. And whether it's convenient or not, doesn't really matter. That should drive our thinking and our worldview on such a complicated issue like abortion. But I noticed that with young people especially, I had this conversation with my 18-year-old son at one point, that we live in a world where they never think through these issues. And even growing up in the church and having a dad as a pastor, we had never discussed the intricacies of this issue. And when I asked him to describe his stance on this, he pretty much described a pro-choice stance. And only when I started asking questions did it alert him to the fact that maybe he hadn't thought this through completely and had to deal with some of these complicated issues that surround the concept of truth. We live in a world that drifts further and further and further from the idea of transcendent truth that should govern all reality. At the end of the day, what this wise saying is promoting is the concept of living in the truth, living in reality, and letting the chips fall where they may as we deal with the complicated life issues on this side of heaven. So, wise saying number 17, buy the truth and don't sell it. Wisdom and instruction and insight as well. You have to decide, are you going to be a person who embraces the truth even when it's not popular, even when other people have differences of opinions, even when it's not convenient, even when it's not easy to articulate? Are you going to embrace the truth, or are you just going to live in your truth, which isn't really true? It's just your opinion. You understand? All right, that's my hope for you. We'll pick it up again on Sunday. Why say number 18? I love you. I mean it. See ya.